When many moved in his reshuffle, Rachel Reeves stayed put. Their fates now welded together. Their shared message to Labour this week: this government is better, more radical than you think.
So, conference, don't ever let anyone tell you that there's no difference between a Labour government and a Conservative government.
A message she thought so needed, she said it 7 times. Labour was starkly different from the Conservatives, she said, and a world away from the party's new main political opponent.
The single greatest threat to our way of life and to the living standards of working people is the agenda of Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. Whatever falsehoods they push, whatever easy answers they peddle, however willing they are to tear communities and families apart, they are not on the side of working people.
It was spending announcements like support for troubled heavy industry that cheered most delegates. But Rachel Reeves also had a warning that times ahead would be harder than expected because of tariffs, defence costs and the Tories' legacy.
In the months ahead, we will face further tests, with the choices to come made all the harder by harsh global headwinds and the long-term damage done to our country, which is becoming ever clearer.
She didn't mention budget tax rises. It sounded like she was rehearsing the budget speech lines that would explain why they could not have been foreseen.
Has your leadership campaign already crashed and burned?
I've not launched the leadership bit, so I don't know what you mean.
But for a few days now, the Mayor of Greater Manchester has attracted leadership frenzy attention and called for a new direction in policy that included a rethink of government borrowing rules, looking like he was calling time on Keir Starmer's premiership. Rachel Reeves, without naming Andy Burnham, slapped down reckless economic thinking.
There are still people who peddle the idea that we could just abandon economic responsibility and cast off any constraints on spending. They are wrong. Dangerously so.
You need strong fiscal rules, but it doesn't mean in exactly their current form. There's nothing about me that is saying, oh, just throw the money everywhere.
The MPs section of the conference hall looked like they were trying to get everyone on their feet throughout the speech, trying to bolster a leadership under severe pressure.
Have faith, because our party and our country have overcome greater challenges than these. Have faith, because the opportunity to serve is what we came into this for.
What do you think she had in mind when she talked about reckless borrowing?
I've got no
Someone
idea.
who's prowling around the conference. Andy Burnham, maybe?
We couldn't possibly comment.
You'd have to speculate on that yourself. I'm not going to speculate. We're quite happy with what we've got.
She talked about global headwinds and Tory inheritance. It sounded like she was preparing the argument for why she's going to have to raise taxes.
I didn't hear that at all.
I swear she said it.
Well, no, I didn't hear. I wasn't reading that into what she was saying.
Who do you blame for tax rises that are coming?
I'm not foreseeing the future. I may look like Mystic Meg, but I'm not.
The new Home Secretary was promoted to this job to take a more hardline approach to stopping illegal immigration. Shabana Mahmood warned conference many in the hall might not approve of what she plans to do.
You may not always like what I do. We will have to question some of the assumptions and legal constraints that have lasted for a generation and more. But unless we have control of our borders, and until we can decide who comes in and who must leave, we will never be the open, tolerant and generous country that I know we all believe in.
Privately, allies wonder if the Prime Minister will fully back her. Shabana Mahmood said the country had got to a place where Labour must stray a long way from its comfort zone.
So the challenge we now face is this: not just to win the next election, but to keep the country together and to fight for our belief in a Greater Britain, not a littler England.
You won't like what's coming. A tough message for a party that hasn't much liked the first chapter of government. Tomorrow, Keir Starmer must convince mutinous troops he's still the man to lead them through all this.
Now, the centrepiece of the Labour manifesto was a promise for an energy transformation to net zero. But since then, there have been suggestions some in government would prefer a focus on cheaper bills now. Joining me is the Energy and Climate Change Secretary and former Labour leader, Ed Miliband.
Great to be with you.
Nice to see you. There's a sense that Labour is being asked to do things it doesn't really want to do. It's being asked to be mean to immigrants, and increase the obstacles to settled status. It's saying, there's going to be difficult decisions in the budget. It sounds a bit like the same thing's happening to net zero, that everything's being squeezed a little bit.
No. This is absolutely the centrepiece of our economic policy, our energy security policy, and of course our climate policy. And just to sort of pick you up on what you said in the intro, we've made an argument throughout our time in opposition and now in government that this is the route to energy security. This is the route to good jobs and growth, the biggest economic opportunity of the 21st century, as the Chancellor eloquently talked about today in her speech, and it's the right thing for future generations. And if Reform want a fight about that, I say bring it on.
But are you about to approve new North Sea oil licences? You've got some big decisions coming up.
No, we are determined to have a climate-leading North Sea position and a just transition. We had two commitments in our manifesto.
Will there be new licenses?
I'll just one sec. We had a clear position in our manifesto to keep existing oil and gas fields open for their lifetime and not to issue new licenses to explore new fields. And obviously we're in a consultation, yes, but that position stands.
But there's talk of extending the existing fields.
Let me just tell you.
With new permissions.
Let me just tell you, we're going to stick to our manifesto, Christian. We're absolutely
going to new licenses.
We're going to stick to our manifesto not to issue new licenses to explore new fields, definitely.
But you're adding on new fields there, and I'm not asking you about that. I'm talking about existing fields.
No.
Right.
I just want to be absolutely clear about this. There's no resiling at all from our manifesto position.
Why is this conference being asked to do stuff it doesn't really want to do? Shabana Mahmood gave a speech today to silence. Rachel Reeves is having to warn us about the global headwinds, meaning difficult decisions ahead.
Because government is hard, but I'm incredibly proud of many of the things that this government has done. And look, I think there's an argument here. There's an argument about why is Britain not working for so many people. Reform want to say it's the fault of migration, net zero and diversity. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think it's because for 30 of the last 40 years, the economy has been run in a certain way. Trickle-down economics, cut taxes for the richest, help everyone else, and austerity. And we exist to change that. And look, we've got to do the right things on migration, and I agree with what Shabana said today about making sure contribution is a part of it, but the central battle lines on which we will fight the next election are who can defend working people and change our economy to work for working people.
But that framing is not one that the leadership uses. They just sort of announce things and then expect everybody to agree with it. What's happened to the Labour Party doing politics and actually persuading people?
Well, look, I think we are doing politics, and leadership is a collective enterprise. Let me put it that way. As a former Labour leader, I can say that. And if you think about what I'm doing in my area, and that's what I can best speak about, it's about making this argument that it is about climate, but it's about so much more than that. It's about how we create the good jobs of the future in our country. We can't get energy security from fossil fuels. That won't give us energy security for the future, won't cut bills, won't create long-term sustainable jobs. That's why we need the transition. So as I say, I remember being Labour leader. It's dim and distant past and all that. You get lots of
again.
You get no. Tried that. Had the T-shirt. No. But thanks for asking. But I think it is a collective enterprise.
If you're going to take on Nigel Farage, you need more than rhetoric, don't you? I mean, the government can do things. Last night, you said Nigel Farage is part of a global network of rights.
Yeah.
That includes social media, which is right-wing biased in many cases. You could do something about that.
Of course, we always look at those issues around social media, but I think actually you put it well in the question you asked me 2 questions ago, which is political argument. Look, part of this, and I think you have a will from this at the conference, is to join the fight with Reform, right? To join the battle lines. And I think there is a battle just take net zero for a second. They want to wage war on clean energy. That means waging war on the workers at the Siemens turbine factory in Hull.
And they're so successful that it was rumoured the Prime Minister wanted to move.
Well, hang on a minute. I'll come to that in a sec. But they're not so successful, right? This is the difference between what Westminster thinks and what the public think. The reform people want to pretend there is this massive revolt against net zero. There isn't. None of the polling says that there's this massive revolt. We've got to win the argument.
Did they try and move you?
The Prime Minister is very happy that I'm carrying on in my current role. Let me. But I don't comment on reshuffles in advance or after.
Yeah.
He's very. No,
I think we know what to take from that.
No. But I want to say this. Genuinely, I was in the last Labour government. We have a Prime Minister and a Chancellor, and I say this, without any side, who are more committed to this agenda than any Prime Minister or Chancellor have ever been. Rachel was introduced by a nuclear worker from Sizewell, showing how much she cares about
Just
this
finally,
agenda.
in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
The conference has voted to accept the definition of genocide by the UN Commission, the finding of genocide.
Sure. And I think it's
should the government?
I think it's important the conference expresses its view. Look, I'm the Energy Secretary of the UK government. This is a legal question. But what I know is what is happening in Gaza is abhorrent. We need to work with every will we can for a ceasefire as soon as possible. And that's what matters most to the people of Gaza, as well as the long-standing and historic decision we made to recognise the state of Palestine, a decision I 100% support.
Ed Miliband, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, the big theme of today, as Gary reported, was the speech by the Chancellor. The budget, which may bring more tax rises, is looming over this conference. Let's get more from our economics correspondent, Hadia Ebrahimi, who's with me now.
Chris, this was a speech that was trying to do quite a lot. First and foremost, as Gary was saying earlier, trying to warn about the madness of fiscal irresponsibility and the implication of that for Labour objectives. But the challenge that the Chancellor faces is immense. If we take a look at the last 6 decades and what that's meant for living standards, you can see that in every single decade, living standards have gone up quite a lot, actually. In the 1980s, they went up by 35%. But take a look at the last column. That is the age we're living in now. That has not budged at all. Zero growth. That is quite woeful. And while most economists would say the Chancellor, they like their ideas on AI, on planning, on energy, as Ed was talking about, it's a question of when that will bear fruit. And right across the political spectrum at the moment, from businesses and the wealthy to workers and those who are reliant on benefits, everyone has had their run-in with Labour tax policies. So the question is, who is Labour talking to? And if we go back to that graphic we were just looking at and split the change in living standards in this decade into winners and losers, you can see the reality is, wherever you are in the cross-section of the economy, top, middle or bottom, no one is really winning.
And taxes going up.
Well, there's a lot of pitch rolling, isn't there? You know, the Chancellor keeps reminding us that the budget is going to be very difficult. We know that in the manifesto they promised taxes wouldn't go up for working people. That's national insurance, income tax or VAT. But it's hard to see how they can hold that line when we're expecting the government to be in the hole maybe 20, maybe 30 billion pounds. There's a huge contingent here in Liverpool that would like to see wealth taxes go up. Chancellors seem to be rowing back from that slightly. There's a focus on VAT changes. That's less difficult for businesses and workers, but it creates a hell of a headache for inflation. You could get a whole new tax for security and defence. But whatever the choice is, Krish, on the 26th of November, it's going to be a very tough one.
Thanks, Helia. Well, earlier today, I spoke to the Chancellor and started by asking her about her plan to guarantee paid work for unemployed young people.
They will be offered skills, training, one-to-one support to find work. But if they're not able to find work, at the end of those 18 months, there will be a guarantee of a job offer. And
if they don't take it, they'll lose their benefits?
Yes, and there's always been that system in the UK that there is something in return.
This idea is also being applied to indefinite leave to remain, by the sound of it. Shabana Mahmood is coming up with the idea that you've got to be a volunteer, you've got to have a job if you want to get settled status. I mean, isn't it a bit insulting to say to an Indian doctor, say, who is working 60, 70 hours a week, that in order to get settled status here, he's also got to volunteer?
Well, we want people to contribute if they come to our country, and by and large people do contribute. At the moment, you have to be here for 5 years, and what we're saying is that should be 10 years. And I think
do
that
voluntary work.
Well, look, there's lots of different ways to contribute, and if you're working in the NHS, you're clearly contributing to our country and our society. But that's in sharp contrast to what Nigel Farage is saying. What Reform is saying is that if someone is in this country legally, working and contributing, that they could be deported. Now, there are lots of your viewers who at work today are sitting next to somebody who wasn't born in Britain, is dropping their kids off at school in the morning, and another parent might not have been born in Britain but is going out to work. A lot of your viewers will be married to somebody who wasn't born in Britain, and they may be the parents of their children. And those people have got every right to be in this country, and the idea that they would be deported just because they weren't born here, I believe that policy is racist. I believe that policy is wrong.
What kinds of people come up with racist policies,
well, look,
if they're not racist?
Nigel Farage will have to answer for himself as I have to answer for myself, but I've always tried to focus on the policies rather than bring it down to personalities.
Do you worry that lots
this
of
is a wrong
Reform
policy.
supporters now are worried that you are calling them, if not you, but other people here are calling them racist?
No, I don't think people who vote for Reform are racist. A lot of people want change, but this Labour government are changing things. We've increased the national living wage and the national minimum wage so that work pays. There's been 5 cuts in interest rates to take money off of people's mortgages. We're rolling out breakfast clubs and free school meals. We've cut NHS waiting lists by 200,000. We're helping people get on the housing
But people aren't
ladder.
feeling it is the trouble, isn't it? I mean, and you've got the budget coming up, and obviously you're not going to tell us what's in it, but as a principle, last time around, you said, I'm not going to come back for more big tax rises. This is a one-off. We've fixed it now. And clearly you hadn't, and you're going to have to come back for more.
Well, what we did last year was fix the mess that we had inherited, and we inherited a massive hole in the public finances and also public services on their knees. And so we did what was necessary, but I think all of your viewers will acknowledge that the world has been incredibly volatile this last year, and I'm Chancellor in the world as it is, not as the world as I would wish it to be.
I mean, you did say the world had changed, but then you didn't change your own framework.
No, and that was the right approach, because already as a government, 1 in 10 pounds of what we spend is on servicing government debt. There is nothing progressive, nothing patriotic about spending money, paying back debts racked up by the previous Conservative government.
As things turned out, the £10 billion of fiscal headroom that you created in the last budget just wasn't enough. Would you be happy going into this budget with £10 billion of fiscal headroom?
Obviously, in an ideal world, you'd have more headroom. You'd have a less volatile international.
Is that what you'll create with this budget?
Well, I'll set out all my budget measures on the 26th of November. I'll confront the challenges that we face. I will never shy away from those. But what your viewers can know is that they put their trust in me a year ago to return stability to our economy, and I'm not going to squander that trust. Even when the going gets tough, I will ensure that we have that stability, because that stability is essential for families and businesses to plan for the future.
There's a lot of politics here at conference, as ever. I mean, in 2015, I think you introduced Andy Burnham as a potential leader of the Labour Party. You were one of his big backers. You would have been his Chancellor. Do you think he'd still make a good leader?
I did back Andy for the leadership in 2015, but we have a leader who I backed for the leadership in 2019, and that leader is Keir Starmer. He was elected last year to turn our country around after 14 years of the Conservatives. Andy was elected to serve the people of Greater Manchester, and I want people to get on doing the job they're doing.
He said there was a climate of fear in this party. I mean, is there a climate of fear? He's clearly scared to speak out.
Well, he's been speaking out.
But he's worried about it, isn't he? He's talking about...
He's clearly not scared to speak out, Krishna, and that's what he has been doing. But people have also got a job to do, and the Prime Minister's job is to run the country, and my job is to turn around our economy. I'm really proud that in the first 15 months of this government, we've had the fastest growing economy in the G7. We've had 5 cuts in interest rates. We've secured trade deals with the United States, India, and the EU. We've brought down hospital waiting lists, rolling out free school meals and free breakfast clubs. Is there more to do? Absolutely.
Rachel Reeves, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Gaza has been another big talking point here today. A pro-Palestine protester interrupted Rachel Reeves in her speech. Then Labour Party members voted that a genocide is taking place in Gaza, calling for the government to employ all means to prevent it and fully suspend the arms trade with Israel. Our fact-check team can exclusively reveal that rather than falling, Israel's arms imports from the UK actually hit a record high in June. Our senior political correspondent Paul McNamara reports.
Mass starvation of Palestinians.
A lone voice that, for a few moments, stunned the Chancellor into silence.
We understand your cause and we are recognising a Palestinian state, but we are now a party in government, not a party of protest.
This has long been an issue that's driven a wedge through the Labour Party. Outside their conference yesterday, 66 people were arrested on suspicion of supporting Palestine action. Inside their conference today...
Can I see all those against? That passes.
This vote passing means that Labour Party conference officially recognises that they believe Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Now, in reality, it doesn't change Labour Party policy. It certainly doesn't change government policy, but that doesn't stop it being an embarrassment for the government nonetheless, and highlighting once again on this issue, among other issues, that there is a rift between Sir Keir Starmer and the members of the party he leads.
But it's really significant because party members and trade unions had to fight to get the issue of the genocide in Gaza on the conference floor. They succeeded despite the best efforts of some in the leadership.
And I really find it quite extraordinary that anyone would vote for a motion about Gaza that didn't refer to Hamas or what happened on October the 7th. We are where we are.
Today's motion didn't just call for the recognition of genocide, which Israel fiercely denies, but also for the government to fully suspend the arms trade with Israel. Despite ongoing pressure for Labour to impose an arms embargo, Channel 4 News' fact-check team has found that Israel's arms imports from the UK rocketed in June. In September last year, the government suspended 29 of its 350 arms export licences to Israel, but by July this year, it had 347 active licences, 167 of which are explicitly military licences. In June, Israel's tax authority reported receiving more than £400,000 of arms from the UK, listed under a category covering bombs, missiles, ammunition and other munitions of war. And August was the second highest month on record, more than £150,000 worth of arms imports from the UK, including £20,000 worth of bullets. The British government told us, we take our arms control system very seriously and have taken every possible measure to ensure no licences are given to UK military exports that could be used by the IDF in Gaza. Gaza is an issue that doesn't just expose rifts between MPs, but as today's vote shows, the rift between the members and the government.
What do you think this says about where the government is and where the membership of the party is?
People see this. They go on their phones. They see the same images that you and I see. And they see those children. I cannot understand how you can be a foreign secretary, a prime minister, and think that you don't take the strongest possible stand against this.
The government say recognising the Palestinian state last week was an historic moment. Today's vote is unlikely to echo through the ages, but it still has the power to reverberate through the party.